Welcome into Red's Reality Podcast, the podcast where yours truly, Josh Razauskas, brings you reality as I see it on all things your Cincinnati Reds. And everyone, there's no other way to put what happened last night and everything that's happened lately other than a lack of fundamentals. The Reds are now one game below 500 as they fall in extra innings in 10 to the Atlanta Braves by final score of 2-1. And it really just is lack of fundamentals. You've got Jake Fraley, who knows that Stuart Fairchild, of all people, the former Red Stuart Fairchild, who's been with our team for years now, so it's not like we don't know what he's capable of on the base paths. It's not like we don't know how fast he can be. And he's going from first to home plate on a ball, and Jake Fraley does not go home with the baseball. And when you look at that, it's just a lack of fundamentals. That's what it is. It's teams forgetting, the team, the Reds, forgetting how to play basic baseball and losing your brain in the most important moment that you can not afford to be doing that. And that's what we're seeing. And it also extended earlier on when the Reds had their own chance to take the lead after the 1-1 tie and prevent the Braves from being able to win it in the bottom half of the 10th. They had a chance to take the lead in the top half of the 10th, and who was at the plate but Ellie De La Cruz, the man, Ellie, the guy who is the face of the sport, the man who is fundamentally, no pun intended, the future of our franchise, the guy who's on the freaking cover of MLB The Show 25 this year. And what does he do? He takes the ball right down the middle for strike three to end the inning. And fundamentals also boil down to an element of aggression. And that is what was lacking in this game as well. Where is the aggression from the Reds hitters? We talked about it yesterday when I said that the offense has just disappeared. And I said, where did it go? It comes down to that. It comes down to lack of aggression and not swinging when it's obviously a strike. Now, don't get me wrong. I get what they're doing with Ellie and what they, meaning management, meaning Terry Francona, Chris Valenka, the rest of the Reds coaching staff, what they're trying to accomplish with Ellie is to cut down on his strikeouts and make sure that he is not striking out all the time. And thus, by not striking out all the time, he can take more walks and get on base and be more productive as a whole, which is what you want from him for certain. But here's the deal. It's now getting to where Ellie is losing the ability to be Ellie. He's inside his head too much, and he's not swinging at pitches that are obvious strikes. It's one thing to take balls. It's another thing not to swing at strikes. And even though he had a several game on-base percentage streak before yesterday, he's just not being the Ellie that we need him to be when the game is on the line. And that's the thing that really stood out to me, in that scenario, is that Ellie last year would have been all over that pitch. So I usually am not one to criticize, but I'm going to in this scenario. Please, Reds coaching staff, if you're watching this plea from a lifelong Reds fan on his Reds-centric podcast, please just calm down on trying to taper Ellie De La Cruz and telling Ellie De La Cruz the kind of player to be. Just let him be natural and flow, because I feel like he's losing a huge element of his game. So, how do you fix this? Well, part of the problem, like we talked about yesterday, there's not enough depth in the outfield. When you're talking about you're bringing up Jacob Hurtubise to fill in the spot that Tyler Callahan vacated with his horrific broken left forearm, that's nothing but a body. That's not a guy you're scared of. That's not a guy you can count on in the late innings to produce. Yeah, he's a pinch runner, and he pinch ran for Austin Wins, who was playing first last night, because Noelvi Marte was a late scratch with left side pain. So hopefully when I come on here tomorrow, we're not talking about an IL stent for Noelvi Marte. But that's the spot you use Jacob Hurtubise in, sure, because he's got far more speed than Austin Wins, but you don't just want a guy who's going to give you speed. You need a guy who's also going to play solid defense and, more importantly, be effective in the lineup. And that's not Jacob Hurtubise. That has not been Blake Dunn in the opportunities that he's been given, despite the great spring training he had and how high Tito was on him to begin the year. He's not followed through with that at all. So, it's just really frustrating, because this team is incredibly capable of being a playoff team. I will beat that drum until I'm dead in the face, because I believe that. I believe that this team is capable of being a playoff team, and I believe that it's capable of being a winner. The problem now is, though, that they just are not doing what they need to do, how they need to do it, and we're running out of time where you can say, okay, the Reds are good enough. They're good enough to hang around, and then they can catch fire. We're in May now, which I know is still incredibly early because the season goes till September. But if we want to be talking about October baseball, we cannot be talking about these things anymore. So the Reds need Austin Hayes back, which hopefully is going to happen on Friday. The Reds need to make more roster moves that are impactful. And some of you are going to say, well, what about Will Benson? Well, I think Will Benson is a guy right now that the Reds are just done with. I think they're just done with him because he did not perform well in the one game that he was called up. He's in a bit of a slump in AAA right now as well. He's just not putting it together. He's sort of a lost cause and not who we thought we were going to get from Cleveland. And there's guys that just don't work out. So Will Benson is not on my radar of how to fix things right now. And I don't think he should be on yours if you're asking that question. And the other guy, of course, would be Rhys Hines. But the problem with bringing up Rhys to fill a roster spot is that is all he's going to be doing, is filling in a roster spot. He's not going to be getting the everyday at-bats that he needs to be getting out there in games. And if you want to develop him into an everyday player, because that's what you feel like he is, then you have to focus on that for him and make sure that he's still getting that. So that's why I don't think Rhys Hines is going to get the call. So I don't know what you do, everybody, but I think that this is where we're at. This is why we're frustrated. This is why I'm feeling it today with this losing streak, because all of it is inexcusable and things need to change. And because of all that, as you can see from the second bullet point in the show notes today, Abbott was wasted. Andrew Abbott had a good pitching performance last night. Probably one of the strongest I've ever seen from him. Was really effective. He stood toe-to-toe with Chris Sale, which Chris Sale being on the mound was another reason why we had so many struggles last night. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that we should have been more effective as a whole before we even got to that point, because we had to knock Chris Sale out of the ball game. And usually, the only way to knock Chris Sale out of a baseball game is to do exactly what the Reds did, which is to have him be fatigued, because he's not going to beat himself. So, yeah, everything is fine in terms of that regard, but because they were facing Chris Sale, and they didn't execute when Chris Sale was out of the ball game, Andrew Abbott was wasted. Abbott had a strong pitching performance. He pretty much matched Sale pitch for pitch. He had the best release point that I think I've seen him have all year. He wasn't pushing his leg forward, which has been a mechanical issue for him, and that's why he's been throwing too many pitches. I think he was fine through 5 innings, more than fine, was pretty much carving the hitters up, and I would have even left him in for the 6th inning, which I don't know why they didn't do that. Maybe Tito knows something internally, or maybe Andrew himself said, "Boss, I'm done," which if that's the case, then that's fine. But then you had Graham Ashcraft come in and struggle a bit in the 6th, didn't look as sharp as we've seen him look. Tony Santillan pitched a phenomenal 2 innings. The guy continues to be probably the best Reds bullpen arm. He pitched a phenomenal 7th and a phenomenal 8th inning last night. And then Emilio Pagan comes in with the Reds having the 1-run lead and just could not hold it down. The Braves tied it, and then the Braves won it in extras off of one Lyon Richardson, who returned to the team after now being arrested, and the fact that he was removed because he had too many innings earlier on last week. So, yeah, just everything fell apart last night, and it's very frustrating, and hopefully we can get back to 500 today. We can get back to 1 game over 500 on Thursday, and we can just start climbing up again, because I believe the team is capable of it. But the more things go on like what we've seen recently, the more frustrated that I get. So, as always, chime in the comment section down below. Let me know your thoughts on all this and how you would fix our boys in red. Or if you'd prefer, you can hit me up on social media. Hit the show up, that is, on social media at Blue Sky and Twitter/X at Reds Reality Pod. If this was your first time here and you enjoyed it and you would like to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes, you can hit that subscribe button, the subscribe circle that will be appearing on the end screen right now. And you can check out the previous episode as well as the episode that YouTube itself recommends the most to you. And remember that I, Josh Razauskas, will continue to bring you reality as I see it on all things your Cincinnati Reds.